I'm here with Lisa McKnight, who's the Senior VP at Mattel, and I'm currently running the global head of Barbie and the dolls portfolio. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Fun to be here with you.
Glad you're here. Yeah, so you've been at Mattel for what, over 22 years, and currently running the Barbie portfolio and dolls portfolio. Tell us a little bit about your experience at Mattel and about your current role.
Well, yes, I have been at Mattel for a while, and I do like to say that I feel as though I've had many careers within the career at Mattel. I've always had challenging opportunities, growth opportunities, and I've worn a lot of different hats. I've been in the consumer products licensing side of the business. I've run North America marketing, which is across our entire portfolio of brands, from infant preschool, Fisher-Price, Thomas the Train, through Hot Wheels and Barbie. And today I'm running our dolls portfolio with Barbie as our flagship brand. And I'm having a ton of fun.
I'm sure you are. It's a fun brand. I mean, Barbie is what, a 62-year-old brand? How do you modernize and transform a brand that is, you know, over 60 years old, but has to be relevant to today's children?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. You know, this is a brand that has the benefit of 6 decades in the marketplace. There's a lot of heritage. We span, you know, multiple generations. And so there's a wonderful history to build upon. But at the same time, if we're not current and connecting to consumers today, going where girls and kids are today, connecting to cultural conversations, then we're not relevant. And as we like to say, you know, this is a brand that is timeless, which again, we appreciate, but also has to be timely. So we are constantly iterating and evolving all aspects of the brand.
Great. Yes. Well, I know you've done a lot of work around the science and the dream gap. How has the science influenced your product development and as well as the brand marketing for Barbie?
Well, it's really interesting. A few years ago, we began to evolve our platform to be more purposeful and social mission oriented. We came across a study by NYU on girls and boys, and found that starting at a very young age, as young as 5 or 6, girls start losing confidence in their abilities and start believing boys as being more capable and competent than girls. And we found that, of course, very disheartening. We wanted to understand what the root causes were for this. The expression is actually called, of this phenomenon, is called the dream gap. And that was coined by a professor at NYU. And we've taken on that as a mission for the Barbie brand, to close the dream gap for this next generation of girls. We want to understand why girls aren't believing in themselves, and how we can inspire them, prop them up, give them the tools to succeed in life, and also ensure that there's an equal playing field for them.
Yes, it's so important, right? And it starts so young. So how's that changed the marketing or driven the brand purpose?
Well, what we've noticed, again, that I'm sure many people are tapping into is, of course, today's generation of millennials in particular. That's an important audience for us. Many of them are parents. You know, they want to buy into brands, products, services that share their values. So being socially minded is critical, I believe, to be successful in today's day and age. So we have been doing more marketing and cause marketing in that space. Certainly, we also target kids who are the actual consumers of our toys. And we want to make sure that they're lit up by the entertainment value and the play experience of our toys. We create a lot of content for kids, but we're also doing more and more marketing to adults to have these larger conversations around the benefits of Barbie and the purpose of Barbie.
Yeah, I know when we were having our initial call, you had talked about the purposeful play and the diversity. Talk a little bit about the diversity of Barbie and how that has really kind of transformed over the past 10+ years.
Well, again, I'm very proud of the evolution that's been occurring in the Barbie brand. Again, in the more recent 5-6 years, we are today the most diverse doll line in the marketplace. Half of our dolls sold are diverse dolls, and that's not only in ethnicity, but in body type, as well as, we even have dolls with different abilities. We've got a doll in a wheelchair, we've got a doll with a prosthetic limb. So very proud of the way the team has pushed inclusivity and integrated more diversity into our line, because we know how important it is for kids to be able to see themselves in our line, as well as for the brand to represent the world that kids see around them. So again, lots of concerted efforts in that space.
Exactly. The whole diversity and inclusion and the development of the product is really, really exciting to see those changes over the course of time. So tell us a little bit about the go-to-market strategy that you have for Barbie and even maybe some of the other dolls.
Well, again, a lot's changed over the past 10 years, as many of us can appreciate. Again, years ago, it was fairly straightforward. I mean, Mattel in general, not just Barbie, but Mattel, spent a lot of our media budget on linear television advertising. Very straightforward, targeting kids. Of course, as time has gone on, we've, like I said earlier, we've appreciated that we've got these larger brand benefits that we want to also share with parents. So we've been also investing in more media targeting adults in recent years. And then from there, of course, again, we're going where consumers are in terms of how they're consuming advertising and marketing messaging. So it's a much more complex mix of different media vehicles that we use today. Obviously, a lot of our spend is in digital. And we've got a really great media mix model that we look at every year to sort of reappraise where our spending is and what the best ROI is for the different levers that we're investing behind.
Tell us a little bit about some of the different media channels that you're using.
Well, certainly lots of social. We have owned channels. So of course, we're constantly, introducing new content and messaging on our own channels. And then of course, we're buying paid media on different social channels. We're starting to do a little bit more with TikTok. We do not have our own channel yet. You can imagine, as a kids company, there are some regulatory challenges there, but we're working through some opportunities. But certainly we're seeing a lot of migration to TikTok as a very popular channel, not just for content and entertainment, but also for commercialization. We spend a lot of our budget on YouTube, again, driving engagement, but also working with influencers to support different products. And of course, still look at all sorts of other experiential opportunities. Live events pivoted to digital and virtual this past 18 months, but looking forward to getting back out there too with more experiences.
Yes, and I think you mentioned too that Barbie has her own cooking channel.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I thought you had mentioned before that that Barbie has a cooking show on YouTube.
Well, we do, yes. It's not a cooking show, but we do make sure that Barbie acts as an influencer. So when she's on YouTube, when she's showing up on her Instagram channel, specifically at Barbie Style, she's doing things that other influencers do. So absolutely, sometimes she is cooking and giving some fun tips.
That's great. Yeah. So taking a look at present day, I know 2020 was a record-setting year for Mattel, and it was especially good for the Barbie brand. So, what role did the pandemic play in Mattel's growth last year?
Well, it was certainly a roller coaster ride for all of us in the toy industry. At the beginning of the pandemic, as families and everyone started to shelter in place, we saw a big uptick in sales for puzzles and games and arts and crafts and categories that families could do together. So dolls actually took a bit of a dip. Then by the late spring, as birthday parties were canceled, as family trips were canceled, kids weren't going away to summer camp, we saw a real exciting uptick on sales for Barbie and certainly a lot of other Mattel brands. We found that consumers started to gravitate towards brands that they were very familiar with, so more evergreen brands. And products in Barbie's world, like the dream house, went off the charts. We normally sell a lot of dream houses around the holiday season. It's a high ticket item, but we noticed that there was more increased search about the dream house in the summer. We obviously fueled that, worked with our retail partners, and I'm thrilled to share that last year the dream house was the #1 toy sold in the US.
It's amazing. That's a lot of dream houses. Yeah. So what kinds of consumer trends are you seeing emerge now that people are returning to work? I mean, obviously having children at home really helped push Barbie, right? Parents were really looking for opportunities to entertain their children and have them play. So what do you see next in terms of emerging consumer trends?
Well, it's interesting. Definitely there's a bit of a shift. I mean, first I will share that the toy industry overall is still performing very well, which is great to see, and Barbie as well. But what we are seeing, of course, is shopping behavior is going a little bit back to the way it was pre-pandemic, in that we're starting to see a little more shopping on the weekends versus the weekdays. We're also starting to see more traffic, of course, and shopping coming from brick and mortar than just online. However, we know that the landscape has shifted, and we've accelerated online shopping, and that's certainly going to continue in the future. Of course, we also talked about earlier content consumption, lots of interest and time being spent again on TikTok. So we're, again, as I said, trying to work on a strategy to be more present there. And again, lots of time streaming. And so we're working on content creation for Netflix and other streaming services to make sure we are, again, where our consumers are.
Yes. So you mentioned e-commerce being significant this year, and you're still seeing that. Tell us a little bit about some of the return to the retailers and kind of the trends between e-commerce and the retail business right now.
Well, again, I think we all know that e-tail is here to stay. It's incredibly convenient. It's great when you know exactly what you want. We call it spear phishing, and you can search for an item, compare costs, and then make a purchase. But everyone also loves the entertainment value of touching and feeling merchandise at physical stores. I think what we're going to see is investment in physical stores, great big merchandising statements, more experiences. And I think we're going to see also an uptick on more impulse items. Again, Barbie's had a great year and continues to have a great year, as well as Mattel. But some of those lower price point impulse items, I think are going to accelerate as people are in stores grabbing things and filling their baskets.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So you recently launched a new advertising campaign for Barbie, and I've seen it. I love the creative. Tell us a little bit more about the campaign.
Oh, well, thank you, Lisa, so much. We're so proud of this work. It's really interesting. We commissioned a study, another research study, a couple years ago, so pre-pandemic, with Cardiff University in the UK, to understand the science behind Barbie. It was actually a neuroscientific study. And what we found in that study was kids, whether they were playing together or by themselves, when they played with Barbie, it unlocked empathy in their brain and that sort of developmental region of their brain. And we thought that was really interesting, that playing with dolls can help a child develop empathy. At the same time, we did a study with parents to ask them what attributes do they want most for their kids. And 90% of them said they want their kids to grow up to be empathetic adults. So with all of that, we thought, wow, this is a really interesting story to share with parents. So they can not only continue to support the Barbie brand, but feel good about the time that their kids are spending playing with dolls. So we created a campaign called A Doll Can Help Change the World. And it's a charming film about all sorts of kids in everyday situations, problem solving and role playing with their dolls, and making that connection to how that will help them in the future be more empathetic adults.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great campaign. So I know you're using the data and the science for the product development. Talk a little bit about how you're using the data that maybe you're getting from your e-commerce or that you're using for marketing.
Well, again, this is a business where there's certainly a lot of value on data and a lot of science, but there is also a bit of art as well. But we are getting more and more sophisticated. So we get a lot of great shopper research to help us understand not only the profile of people buying our products, but also the attachment rates of products. So for example, we know that a household that owns and purchases a dream house, like I mentioned earlier, is more likely to also then own 3 to 5 dolls. So there's an association there, and that data has helped us figure out more cross-marketing and cross-promotional opportunities. And then there's the data that we receive, like I said earlier, around media mix. And it's been fascinating to understand where we get the biggest return on our investment, depending on what lever we spend against. So all of that helps us continue to refine and fine tune our plans.
Right, great. So what's next for marketing the Barbie brand? We're taking a look. I mean, our theme today is, the 10th anniversary of Brand Innovators, taking a look back, taking a look forward. So what's next for Barbie and the Barbie brand?
Well, it's really a fun proposition to think about the 10-year mark, as you guys have put out there. I will share 10 years ago, which more or less was around Barbie's 50th. It was 52, but we were really evolving the doll herself into a pop culture icon. And we were talking a lot about Barbie as a cultural influencer, as well as a fashion icon, bit of a lifestyle brand, if you will. Today, of course, when we think about Barbie, again, she's about diversity, inclusivity. She's about inspiring girls to reach their limitless potential. And we're about to announce tomorrow, so I cannot share it yet, a new social mission platform for the brand, which I'm incredibly excited about. So I do think when I look to the future, as I said before, it's all about connecting to consumers. We're going to go where consumers are going. I don't think people are going to lose interest in purposeful brands. So you're going to see Barbie's purpose continue to expand and see her continue to evolve.
Well, I'm excited to hear about the new social mission. That's exciting. When we were preparing for our call, you also mentioned some of the other things that are going to be in store for Barbie in terms of movies and Broadway. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, like I said, again, we've done a lot of fun animated films for Netflix and for other media platforms. We've announced a partnership with Warner Brothers to make a actual live action Barbie theatrical starring Margot Robbie, directed and written by Greta Gerwig. So we're very excited about that project. This one has been long in the making. I still can't share when the film will be released, but we're really excited to get Barbie to the big screen and have that kind of surround sound around the world for the brand.
Terrific. Great. Well, I see we have a lot of questions here. I'm going to take a look and kind of
Great.
dive in here. So one of the questions is, what can heritage brands learn from newer digital first brands when it comes to authentically marketing to Gen Z?
Well, yes, certainly we can learn how to be agile and how to stay in lockstep with what's happening with consumer shopping behaviors, consumer media consumption behaviors, and so on. We are continuing to build up that muscle at Mattel, and just very excited about the progress we've made. And certainly last year put a big test to us to make sure that we were curating all of our content to be very appropriate for the times. There were a lot of campaigns we had to scrap. First and foremost, when we started sheltering in place, we wanted to make sure that we were providing comfort to kids and their families. And so we had to really quickly evolve a lot of our marketing plans. And certainly these newer, more digitally first companies are great at that.
Yeah. So this is similar, but how does marketing for Gen Z differ from marketing to the millennial audience?
Yeah, again, I would say both audiences are very interested in mission and purpose. I think with Gen Z, we need to push even further. Absolutely, we know that for example, with diversity and inclusivity, it's table stakes. I mean, you absolutely have to ensure that not only when you're thinking of advertising or content creation, that you've got a diverse cast in front of the camera, but you've also got to think about your partners behind the camera. People are demanding it, as they should. The population is shifting dramatically in the US. We've got to make sure we've got good representation in everything that we're doing.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the other questions is, what are the most effective influencer marketing strategies to best appeal to Gen Z? And what changes, if any, do you believe need to be made to influencer marketing trends to better appeal to Gen Z?
Well, again, I think authenticity is key. Everyone can see through, anything that doesn't feel authentic. So we try to work with influencers, for example, that share our values. We're not going to work with someone where it's just pay to play. We only want to work with folks that believe in the BARBIE mission, believe in what we're trying to impact in the world, and we filter a lot of people through that lens. We certainly get a lot of proposals to work with partners, but it's got to be authentic.
Yeah, authenticity is certainly key. Here's another question. In your opinion, as a consumer, what brands are leaders in this space? Either the toy space or the doll space?
Oh, well, I will say, of course, I've got to toot Barbie's horn. I mean, Barbie last year was the #1 toy property in the world. And I do think we're making incredible progress in, again, diversity, inclusivity, representation. I will share, I'm also, of course, very proud of other work we're doing at Mattel. But I will share that, we certainly have a lot of admiration for Lego. They are, a competitor, but we are very impressed with what they've done. Just in terms of all of their marketing touch points, they do a great job of reaching a variety of audiences. They do a great job of connecting to social mission and purpose work. And they do a great job of product and then brand, I think, communication.
That makes sense. Yeah. So based on your experience, what company values, and I would say other than diversity and inclusivity that we've spoken about, which company values matter the most to young consumers?
Well, I think transparency is important. We obviously have a lot of young employees. And again, as we all went into the uncertainty of the pandemic, we knew we didn't have all the answers. We knew the information that we were receiving was changing by the day. So the best we could do was be transparent with what we knew at that time and over communicate. And I think young folks want that from companies too, and brands that they, purchase from. They want accountability. If you get something wrong, acknowledge it, get ahead of it. And again, they want to know that that there's a larger purpose to what is behind these companies, that we're not all transactional and about commerce, that there's a bigger reason why these companies exist.
Yeah, exactly. So here's another question. How do you target the new demographic in an effective way without losing your older consumer base? I know that you mentioned earlier you have, 2 or 3 different audiences, parents, gift givers. So how do you really transform that, your marketing, and target them as opposed to, without losing the older consumer base?
Well, we have to address all audiences. We can't ignore any audience. And so we just have to be choiceful of when we do that, how we make it all work within our budget. Our budget hasn't grown threefold. So we have to think about times of year when we're communicating what Certainly, there is a huge emphasis towards gift giving in the holiday season. I mean, we do have a fairly seasonal business, even though last year we had a very steady business throughout the year. But for the most part, toys see a bump in sales in the holiday fourth quarter. So we certainly put a lot of energy towards gift givers at that point. But at the same time, we've got to reach kids in advance so they ask for the gifts and get the toys on the holiday wish list. So it's constant kind of juggling. And then I would say we also have a philosophy around always on communication. We use a lot of our social platforms to make sure we've got an always on conversation with all of our audiences, including more societal fans that may not even be purchasing product, but are part of the Barbie conversation and have opinions.
Right. Yeah. So what's going to be the hot new toy for the holiday season?
Well, again, I can't share that yet, but what I can share is the innovation doesn't stop. We have a philosophy at Mattel that's called design-led innovation, and the work that's coming out of the team is just incredible. So you're going to see a lot of new introductions from Barbie in the holiday time, as well as, again, this new product launch and new social mission platform that we're announcing tomorrow. So stay tuned.
Great, great. Any other Mattel brands or toys that you want to share some marketing plans and how maybe that compares with what you're doing with Barbie?
Well, an interesting product that's, again, seen a great surge over the past year is Uno, the Uno card game.
Mhm.
Again, been around for decades, and we love Uno at Mattel. And what's been really fun to see is how Uno has evolved with the times and is also starting to play with partners. Uno's done a lot of really interesting executions with artists, with Black cultural experts. They've done some really interesting projects supporting the blind community. We had Uno Braille come out last year, and we just celebrated Pride Month, the beginning of Pride Month, with a really interesting Uno card game. So the stuff that they're doing with that brand, with these collaborations to ignite cultural conversation, is really impressive.
Yes, I wasn't aware of that for Uno. You had mentioned at the beginning of the pandemic, you really thought that the games were going to be the big seller, right? So talk a little bit about, you mentioned before about your team and the pivoting that was done there to really kind of make the shift for what was available and what the marketing was around the different toys for the times when everybody was, at home.
Well, again, we rallied as an organization, around a large message for Mattel that basically said to families and kids, play is not canceled. So even though you're at home, you might be away from friends, there's still, fun to be had, light and levity to be had. And, not only did we promote some of our family activities and games, but we also provided a lot of free content on our website to help parents come up with activities for their kids, as well as tools to talk to them about the pandemic. One of the things that Barbie did was we created a YouTube vlog. Barbie has a vlogger series where she speaks in first person about how she's feeling, what's going on in her life. And she talked about this new normal. She talked about the uncertainty. She was very open and honest, but also, provided some comfort and some teachable moments for kids as well. So that was really effective. So again, definitely wanted to rally around the importance of playtime as a stress reliever and as a bright spot for kids.
Great. So what's the favorite game in the McKnight household?
Oh, well, we love Uno. It's compact. It can go anywhere. Uno is my go-to, especially when we travel. It's a great game to break out with my extended family, the nephews. Perfect when you're waiting for dinner to be served at a restaurant and everyone's antsy. Break out those Uno cards.
Great. Yeah. I bet you're competitive too. So anything else you want to tell us about what's happening with Mattel and coming up here in the next year or so?
Well, just that it's a really exciting time. I mean, again, you know, the toy industry overall is growing. It's great to see families rally around these evergreen brands. And, you know, at Mattel, we're very focused on purposeful play. And the work that we're doing, I think, across the portfolio is really exciting. And our performance is reflecting that.
Yeah, that's terrific. That's terrific. I'm not seeing any other questions here. Are you seeing any additional ones on your end? Anybody have any questions they want to?
I don't see any more.
I don't either. So tell us about some of your other roles at Mattel. I know you've been on the Barbie brand for a while, but in their 22-year career, what would you say is another one of your favorites?
Well, I really enjoyed the consumer products division of Mattel, which is where we take our IP, so Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher-Price, and we license it out to third-party manufacturers. So folks that make apparel, accessories, bicycles, you name it. And what I liked about that job was, again, it forced you to be able to articulate the benefits and the power of these respective brands, because, you know, we had to work with partners to want to make product reflecting those brands. So that was really fun. It was also exciting to learn about other categories and, you know, other industries. And it was exciting to see the power and the potential of our own brands and IP. And extending that reach into categories beyond toy.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of development over the course of your time there. So I think we're just going to wrap up a little bit early, unless there's something else you want to share with us.
I think I'm good. Thanks, Lisa. It's been a fun discussion.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much. Hi, Davina.
Hi, guys. Great job. I love it. So a few takeaways. And by the way, full disclosure, Lisa, we are a Barbie, American Doll,